Hello and welcome again. It's a pleasure to come to you again with an interesting this topic discussion. And I titled this one, What is the End Game for You? And what is the end game for you? What is the plan of the end for you? Let me give you a scenario. Athletes, when they are competing, they run through the drills, they run through the skills, they compete, but meanwhile they are all focused on the end game or the end time. They all focus on the full time of the game because that is when the winners and the losers will be decided once the game comes to an end. Once the last whistle is blown, then we will know who the winner is and who the loser is, or whether we are going to overtime. But in this case, we're not going into overtime. Rather, we are watching for the final whistle to see who are the winners and who are the losers. So I ask you again, what is the end game for you? What clock are you following as you play this game of life? As you run this race to a finish, what clock are you looking at? Because if you are not looking at the clock, you will not know when the game will end. So, what is the end game plan for you? Athletes, when they are competing, especially in basketball, they pace themselves. They say, okay, if we push our defense at this last minute, it might help us to win the game. The same way as we are on the road stretch down to the end, and you look what is your time, or what is your foreseen time of the end? When will it happen? Many people do not have the time of the end in their mind, so they just keep playing. But we should have an end game or end time plan of when this game is going to end. For then we can know how to pace ourselves so that we can win the game, the race. What is the end game plan for you? How do you plan to play the end or the final or the last quarter of this game? How do you plan to finish the race? What is your timetable or time schedule of the end? When will the end arrive for you? Pay attention. Athletes, when they are competing, they have the end in mind. They have an idea of when the race will finish or will come to an end. Basketball players, when they are competing, they know that we have 4 quarters. First quarter, second quarter, third quarter. By the fourth quarter, everybody is on their best in order to finish the game and win the race. So what is your own plan for, what is your own fourth quarter plan for the game to finish this race? You should have a game plan, because the scripture, notice what the scripture says in the book in Peter, 2 Peter chapter 4 verse 7. 2 Peter chapter 4 verse 7. There is written, but the end of all things has drawn near, has drawn close. So therefore, be sound in mind and be vigilant with a view to prayers. So we are entering the final quarter of this game, of the race that we've been running. Yes, the Hebrew Israelites, the chosen race of God, has been in a race for life. We have been running a race for life. We have been sent into a 2,000 years captivity for punishment for our errors by our God. And we are entering the last stretch of this punishment period. At the end of this race, winners and losers will be decided. My question to you is this: what is your end time game plan so that you can finish the race and stand at the podium at the end? Some has no game plan. They just play they don't even know that they are competing in a race. They just coast along. If we win, we win. If we lose, we lose. But good teams and good athletes always have a game plan. Like marathon runners, they schedule or they plan their race. They know, okay, maybe in the second quarter, I can coast down and slow down a little bit. But as long as I keep the pace with those who are running ahead. But he has in mind, they also have in mind, by the time we enter the final stretch, I have to pick it up if I'm going to win the race. We are in the final stretch. It's either you pick it up and win the race, or you slow down and you lose out. So what is your end game plan to win this race? Are you paying attention to the time schedule for finishing this race? Yes, in every competition there is a time limit as to when the game will end. For basketballers, they know that it's the fourth quarter, the last 12 minutes can decide who wins the race and who or not. So you need to have a game plan, and you need to keep your eyes on the time clock, because once the clock runs to zero, that is it. Likewise for us, the Hebrew Israelites, once our punishment time comes to an end, the 2,000 years punishment time, once it comes to an end, that's it. And God will take the final decision of whether you will win or whether you will lose, whether you will live or whether you will be put to death. those who have their eyes on the time will do whatever they need to do in order to win the race at the end. Follow along as I read the book of Isaiah. Isaiah chapter 10, verse 21 to 23. There it is written, "Only a remnant will return, the remnant of Jacob, to the mighty God. For though your people, O Israel, are as the grain of the sand of the sea, only a remnant of them will return, and extermination has been decided on, and justice will engulf them. Yes, the extermination decided on by the sovereign Lord Yahuwah of armies will be carried out in the entire land." Yes, pay attention to what is written so that you know how to plan the final laps of this race. Because only a remnant of Israel will pay attention to the clock. Only a remnant of Israel will pay attention to the time and seek to return to their God. The rest of the people, the decision is that they will be exterminated because they are not paying attention to the clock. They do not know the season or time of the time, or the season or the time that they are living in. But those who pay attention to the clock, and when the finishing time of this race will come to an end, they will do whatever they need to do so that they will be among those that will return, those that will stand on the podium at the end. So are you paying attention to the times? Again, what is your game plan for the end time? How would you run in order to finish the race? Pay attention to what is written in the book of Matthew chapter 24, verse 13. So, but the one who has endured to the end will be saved. So the Messiah, our leader, said, is those who endured until the end of this race. Those who endured and finished the race, with intention to win it, they are the ones that will be saved. So are you paying attention to the clock? 2 minutes to midnight. 1 minute, 30 seconds to midnight. 30 seconds to midnight. We are to run this race until it ends. Many of you don't know when this race started for us. But this race started when the Messiah, our leader, was put to death. For that is when the 2,000 years punishment upon the people of Israel began. From then, Israel will be a punishment for 2,000 years before it will be an end, it will be over. So the Messiah was put to death in around AD 33. When you add 2,000 years to that, that will get you around the year 2033. That is when the final whistle will be blown. That is when the punishment time will be over. So those who knew will run the race so that they can win the prize. So what is your end game plan in order to win the prize at the end? Keep in mind, it's written, only a remnant will return to the mighty God. The rest of Israel will be exterminated. because they are not paying attention to the clock. Again, follow along as I read what is written in the book of Daniel. In the book of Daniel, chapter 12, verse 3 and 4, there is written, "And those having insight will shine as brightly as the expanse of the heavens, and those bringing the many to righteousness like the stars of forever and ever. As for you, Daniel, keep the words secret and seal up the book until the time of the end. Many will rove about, and the true knowledge will become abundant." Yes, those having insight will shine as the stars, and they will bring many back to righteousness. But the book was to be kept sealed until the time of the end. And friends, we are living in the time of the end, and the book has been opened. We now know when the game started. Like I told you, punishment on Israel started after the death of the Messiah. At your own time, go and read the book of Amos, chapter 9, verse 1 to 5. You'll find out that the punishment on Israel started after the Messiah was put to death. And that punishment will last for 2,000 years. So we are in the year 2020, and we have few more years to go to the end of until the race is over, or the punishment is over. So those having insight will help others to do what? To return to righteousness, to doing what is right, which is returning back to our God. But remember what is written. Though the people of Israel multiplied and as the grain of the sea, as the grain of the sand of the sea, he said only a few will return. Will you be among those paying attention to the clock, so that you can return back to the mighty God? Or will you be among those who ignore the truth of what is written and will be destroyed at the end? Again, I ask you, what is your end game plan? How do you want to finish the race for life? For we are in the final stretch, and the clock is ticking. 1 minute to midnight, 30 seconds to midnight, and game over. So, but you still have time to run this race to the end and to win it. If you will return to righteousness, which is return back to your God, to seek for your God in order to return to Him. If you will leave the gods of the nations that we have been worshiping and serving, and return to seek for your God so that you can return and serve Him, you can win this race. But it's up to you. Are you paying attention to the clock? Are you just playing, having fun? It's time for those who have an end game plan to run the race so that they can win the prize. Follow along as I read the book of Habakkuk chapter 2. The book of Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 3. There it is written, "For the vision is yet for its appointed time, and is rushing towards its end, and it will not lie. Even if it should delay, it said, keep in expectation of it, for it will without fail come true. It will not be late. So the vision of the end is for an appointed time. There is a time when the end will arrive. So this vision is for an appointed time, and the clock is keep moving towards the full time. The clock keep moving to the appointed time given. Appointed time given for Israel to finish serving their punishment time among the nations, the 2,000 years imposed on us. The clock is moving and we are approaching that appointed time. But will you wake up and have an end game plan so that you can win the race? Only a remnant will return. Only a remnant will win the race. Those who have paid attention to what is written. Those who have paid attention to the clock. Those who have run the race so that they can win. So, what is your end game plan? Pay attention to what is written and pay attention to the clock. It is the last hour. We are in the final stretch to the end of our punishment. And soon the final whistle will be blown. Will you be among those that will stand to be winners? That will stand on the podium at the end? I hope you are, if you do the right thing, if you run the race to the end. Again, thank you for the pleasure to come to you and share these things with you. Like I said, I've tried to explain to many. Our race is for those who will make it back to Zion. That is our race. We were kicked out of Zion, the kingdom of our God, and others have taken over the land. But we are in punishment for 2,000 years among the nations, and that punishment is ending. Those who finish the race to the end, who are paying attention to the clock, are the ones that will return back to Zion. The race of Israel will be exterminated. So run so that you can win the race. And this book can help you to really study the scriptures, what is written, so that you can understand what our God has been doing with us, so that you can seek to return back to Him, to serve Him in Zion. So you can find this book on Amazon.com. When you search for the title, The Road Leading Back to Zion, Homecoming for Abraham's Chosen Offspring. So, again, I thank you for listening and for paying attention. Until I come to you next time, keep seeking to return back to Zion. Thank you.